Welcome to a new video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my process when I'm doing freestyle designing. And before we get into this, let's talk about what is freestyle designing. So freestyle designing is something where you don't have a brief to work with, you don't have any inspirations to start, and you're just going into a white space and you're making things and see how that actually becomes a design or an art piece, right? So that's the basic idea of freestyle design, and I use it time to time. Usually when I'm designing, I will have an idea in my mind and I will go with that idea to design something, so that my process is much faster. I don't have to spend too much time in the tool, which I hate. So in freestyle designing, you are actually in the tool and you are exploring it, you are experimenting with it. You make shapes, you take a typography, you split it and see what is happening there and what are the forms that you can see, what is coming to your eye right now, what does it look like right now, and you're going to create something uh, out of it. It's a really good experience, and it's a really interesting way to understand the tools that you're working with and also form storming. So let's get started with this, and I'll show you this process, what I usually do. I usually start with something like Photoshop most of the time, because the one thing whenever you are doing, when you're selecting something which is slightly closed, like Figma or Illustrator or InDesign and things like that, there are so many design tools out there. The thing is that you will be restricted to think within what the tool is able to do, right? Because Illustrator is a very vector-based app and it's very limited. I mean, the kind of things that you can do with raster graphics, pixel graphics in Illustrator is limited. So for freestyling, I wouldn't recommend a tool which is specifically designed for one particular task. So Photoshop, in comparison, is a really interesting open-ended tool which can be used for photography, video, imagery, design, typography, whatever you want, right? So there's no limit of things that you can actually achieve inside this. So for freestyling, I would always recommend something like Photoshop. So we are here right now, and I'm just going to walk you through one of those freestyle processes that I do. So usually when I'm starting, I will randomly create shapes just like that. So maybe something that comes to my mind, or yeah, see, whatever happens with the tool, right? So it's not about the mind per se, it's what my hand is doing. So when we are doing this, and am I able to find something here? If I'm able to see shapes, if I'm able to understand something from these two shapes, is it reminding me of something? Is what I start thinking when I'm freestyling first. So, okay, this is starting to look like maybe a person, right? This is the body and the head. And this person, if the shape is like this, the person is looking down. Um, and if I move it like that, the person is actually standing straight, right? So we are able to see this right now. We can see a form happening. And as I'm moving it, the idea changes with it, right? So the concept or the story changes with it. So this is usually what I do. I'm just going to delete this. So similarly, let's create something here. So I'm going to take the pen tool, and I'm going to just draw a random shape. So I want it to be much more random than what we built, right? So I don't want it to be geometrical at any point. So we have something like this. This again reminds you of several forms right now. I just randomly did it without thinking about it. I just let my hand work, right? So that's it. I just gave that liberty to the hand, and this is what it came up with. Now we can actually connect it to different things. It actually looks like an iceberg. It looks like um, a piece of crystal meth, and there could be several forms that you this might actually remind you of. This actually reminds me of a paper which is in a slight perspective, a tone paper which is actually in a perspective. If I move it like that, it looks like a building, a side of a building. So again, when we are looking from down there, so there's so many forms that I can come up with, but I will keep building on it. Um, so I'm just gonna create some more stuff here. I'm just gonna go and let's create something like this. So I have two shapes here right now. And again, I can see more things working here. So now what it basically reminds me is of a face and the long neck of that face, right? You can immediately see this. So I'm just showing you an example here, right? So I'm able to see this right now, a face and a neck, right? So now we are starting to think about this, right? So what can be done here? So if it's a face, it might actually need eyes, right? So let's just create some eyes here. And it needs to actually follow the same style that I'm using. So I'm just going to go with white here. I'm just going to draw an eye, which sort of is very abstract. And I have just the basic form again, which now resembles me of a face, right? Very abstract. It's not trying to be photoreal at any point. So we have this right now. Now I will be thinking in a direction that it needs to actually need some hair. So how can I create a hair? I can basically take a brush and then draw it. So I might try doing that if that is what I want. But sometimes when you're freestyling, right, you might actually feel that okay, this approach might not actually work for this. This is not for this particular technique. What if I make the hairs also with a pen tool? So for instance, um, I can actually make something with a pen tool. Again, an abstraction of hair like this. I can keep building something like this here, and I can say that that's how this person's hair will look like. One way of working, right? So I created again an abstract of a hair, right? So there is that hair right now, which sort of works. But I'm not going to go with that right now here. I want to try something a little more experimental and different from here. That will basically come to you when you're freestyling, right? I'm just going to take the pen tool. I'm going to draw a line, a very simple line here. So let's start drawing a curved line. So let's go like this. And I'm going to just create a line like that. I'm just going to just change the fill to none. Let's close it here. So we basically have that right now, a line. And into that, I'm just going to paste some text, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a text. I'm going to go here, and to write on this curve, you just have to move over until you see this icon and click there, and a text is generated there, right? So what if I'm using text to write this? So I need to find some text, some random text. I think you will find something better than lorem ipsum. So let me just scale down the size of the text, and I think yeah, even that is fine. I'll scale it down, and I'm going to paste more content into it. So let's copy this and maybe paste more stuff. Might actually work. Now, so another thing that I wanted to try here with typography, just when I'm seeing it, I don't want it to be readable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to inverse the space. I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to inverse and reverse the space so that it's a mirror image of the text which is there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just increase the spacing a little bit. Um, make the font size a little bigger. So I have something like this happening, which is an interesting, um, you know, thing. You can see that the hair is sort of like going there. This is what is the beauty of experimentation, right? You will get some really interesting. You will end up with some really interesting accidents that really works. I can see like a small bunch of text which is going here, and then a big bunch of unreadable text which is there, which creates a really interesting effect. And I can try doing this a couple of more times. So what I'll do is just take the pen tool again, and I'll make some more shapes. So I'll just keep repeating this a couple of times, and let's see you at the other end of this. Okay, so finally this is what I have, right? So I just made some changes, added a different color to the type, and it sort of looks interesting to me, right? So let's make it slightly better. I'm going to add a typeface into it. I'm just going to type some titles here. Because right now we were actually working with no goal, right? What is this going to be? We have absolutely no idea. So I think a texture might add a little more interest into the shape. So let's try doing that. I'm just going to add that. Yeah, it sort of works, right? So I just dropped in a texture to this figure. So it was basically this black, but when I added that, it adds sort of an interest into this. Pretty good. So then I added an overall texture on top of this to make it a little more dramatic. Now, this makes a lot of sense, and people will think that I started with a brilliant idea and I reached here. It was just a happy accident, right? That's again the good thing about freestyle design is this. So I'm just going to add a couple of type to make it a functional design. So I added some type, and it is right now a coffee package, right? So this is what we have, coffee package design. So now it's time to export this, and let me quickly make a mockup because everything looks serious and pretty good when it is on a mockup, right? So now that we have discussed about this, I just want to share one of my processes when I'm you know facing a creative block. I don't have any ideas to work with. I'll just go here and I'll do this, and this helps me a lot. So this is just an intro to freestyle design. Try this out if you are a designer. It will help you a lot of to flesh out a lot of ideas that are deeper inside your mind, right? So let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you with another video later. Bye.